We're going to go to David Lyons with story number 2. David, this is a piece you actually wrote. It appeared in the South Florida Sun Sentinel. I'll read you the headline for a couple graphs. Then I want you to provide some insight. You wrote the story, so you might not be able to comment, but maybe you can share with the audience just some insight related to it. Now, just to give the audience some background, during the pandemic, state of Florida was open. This was a place that basically said you didn't need a mask. You want to come down here and twerk on a police car, come on down. And we saw a lot of tech workers who working for companies out of Silicon Valley or New York or elsewhere. They all decided to come down to Florida. They could live a somewhat open type of lifestyle. They had the weather, they had everything else, and they were getting paid for companies that were based in California, New York, or elsewhere. So that's the background. So here we go with the headline, first couple graphs, David. Then I want you to provide some insight. South Florida sees gains in relocating tech workers to the region, but are they enough to fill the demand? First couple graphs. South Florida's got tech talent, but are there enough professionals to go around for the startups, existing companies, and public agencies to keep their customers happy? Last week, San Francisco-based Signal Fire released a survey of 18 U.S. metropolitan areas that showed New York leading the nation in attracting relocating technology workers in 2023. The Big Apple's net gain, 3.5%. San Francisco was last with 3.7% net decline. The Miami-Fort Lauderdale area came in fifth with a fractional net gain in a survey that tracked the movement of workers among 10 of the country's largest technology firms by market capitalization. Amazon, Alphabet, and Meta were among them, along with various large privately held companies. David, why don't you provide some insight into that? And then also, too, as part of that, I wonder if you might be able to comment on a recent headline that said Apple was taking somewhere in the vicinity of about 45,000 square feet in the Coral Gables area, which is a suburb of Miami. What did you find in reporting out the story?
Well, it's a reaffirmation of what I've been hearing before. A lot of technology entities have been coming into South Florida. The mayor, Suarez, during the troubles of Northern California, quite literally, helped spur not an exodus per se, but certainly a certain amount of migration by technology workers to South Florida from the Northeast, California, Texas, etc. Particularly in California because of the business conditions out there. And what was his famous reprieve? It was, "We're here to help." He said on Twitter. That wasn't the magic light switch, but it certainly signaled support, governmental support, community support for an industry that, in some respects, was looking to grow elsewhere or find another home elsewhere. And so, in turn, a number of firms have been relocating here. And of course, over the last more than decade or so, the startup culture has blossomed as a result of contributions by everybody from the Knight Foundation to the Emerge Americas group that fosters a lot of that just talks up the industry and provides encouragement to the point where I remember way back in 2012 being in a seminar room in the Bankers Club in downtown Miami, and there were most of the people in the audience were entrepreneurs who were looking for mentors, money, guidance, and all the rest, to help them fuel the business. The panelists on the dais were quite capable, but outside in the street, there weren't all that many people who were in a position to lend help. So from that ground zero type of a position, the area gradually emerged into what it is today. So there are a lot of businesses, but the thing I keep on hearing is, there's tech talent, but is it qualified talent? Are there enough people here for the jobs that are available? I was looking at Indeed during the course of reporting the story, and they're statewide. There are about 10,700 job openings on Indeed. Right?
Wow!
And there are varying stripes. I mean, there are true entry-level jobs, but there are also a lot of mid-level and higher-level jobs. People looking for the talent necessary to help drive a complex organization and manage projects and do a lot of sophisticated work, well beyond the coding level of a technology, for technology workers who are just coming on stream. So we have this picture of you have the Florida Tech, or the Florida Atlantic University Tech Runway up here in Boca Raton, and the Nova Southeastern and Levan Innovation Center down in Davie at Nova Southeastern University. all places, outside of Miami that are, willing and able to, help startup companies. In terms of, firms that are here, I think there's a need. That Kaseya, known for having its name on the basketball arena, they cut loose 150 people, not for economics, but they were quote unquote performance terminations. And that was their phrase, performance terminations. And so, I think they employ over 2,000 people, and the spokesman told me that, they're out looking to quote unquote backfill those roles. That was his word, or set of words, and he felt confident that they're going to be able to find the talent they need to expand the company down here. So, whether or not
David, if I could interrupt you, anybody who's got any clicks on the odometer, such as myself, I've been down here 30 years. I remember back in 2000 or so, you had this whole Silicon Beach movement where the local counties were going to try to go ahead and create this situation. It was to compete with Silicon Valley. You had VC firms as well as tech companies out of Latin America setting up shop on Lincoln Road, doing it at Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach. You had an office tower built on Washington in South Beach, of all places. You had Scripps, the biomedical company that was lured by then Governor Jeb Bush. So I guess my question, I don't know if you were able to report this out, and I don't know if you can comment on it, but what the hell happened? I thought we were supposed to start this 20 years ago with Silicon Beach and Scripps, and why the hell still do we not have enough employees, or do we simply not have the quantity where maybe everything is operating correctly? It's just, we just don't have enough people for it.
Well, I go back even farther than that. When in the 1980s, when I first, in the earlier years that I was up this way, there were technology firms along Cypress Creek Road, adjacent to the executive airport. They had Bendix, their air transport and civil aviation avionics manufacturing facilities adjacent to the executive airport. You had Harris Corporation.
Wait, wasn't Citrix up there?
Yeah, they're still here. They're still they're probably the last soldier of the technology originals from the 80s in the Fort Lauderdale area. Harris was here. Motorola is still out in Plantation, of course.
IBM?
IBM was up in Boca Raton. That's where the PC evolved. From the standpoint of changes in business decisions, mergers and acquisitions, takeouts, and then the main problem here was at the time the educational institutions didn't have the horsepower to help train a lot of these individuals. So with it was a combination of lack of talent and lack of managerial skills that a lot of investors identified that caused them to go elsewhere. So, I remember that campaign you mentioned. The Forbes magazine actually came down here, and they had a big lunch at the Design Center of the Americas, and there was...
That's right.
I think, for some reason, I want to say that Steve Forbes has actually made a personal appearance here and to talk it up. It never went past an ad campaign because I think people realized what the realities were from an educational standpoint, from the presence of qualified people, and which remains a challenge to this very day. And probably the most salient segment of that story, came from Kelly Smallridge she's the CEO and president of the Palm Beach County Business Development Board. She's the one who's promulgated that Wall Street South campaign that has helped draw so many financial firms from New York down to this way. And she acknowledged that there's work to be done to try to build the talent pool so that there's enough of a workforce to satisfy the demands of the people who have just recently arrived or the companies that want to come here in the future.
Work to be done. Well, we'll see 20 years from now we do this podcast. We'll see if they're still claiming the same thing.